Jian was a famous swordsman. His skill in using a sword was beyond doubt, but unfortunately, he was part of a dark clan called Kisha, and he is the #1 killer in the clan. One day, Jian got a mission from his adoptive father, who was the chieftain, to massacre a city that was a threat to his clan. At that time, Jian's adoptive father asked him to invite a woman named Hongsheng to join and accompany him in doing this mission. Together with Hongsheng, Jian began to kill all the people in the village. Hongsheng's courage in murdering the people in the village was greater than Jian's, even though she was a woman. Turns out, Jian and Hongsheng had been in a romantic relationship, and at that time, Jian said that he wanted to leave martial arts, and he invited Hongsheng to do so. Jian wanted to repent because he no longer wanted to kill many innocent people. But when the two of them intended to leave the city, it turned out that the other clan members found out about Jian's plan. The other members immediately attacked them and prevented them from leaving. The Kisha clan members have extraordinary strength. Jian and Hongsheng continued to survive attacks from their clan members. Jian, with his skills in controlling his sword, began to use all the moves he had learned from the clan. However, it was very unexpected that when Jian did his ultimate move, suddenly Hongsheng, who was beside him, actually cut Jian's hand. It turned out that Hongsheng had betrayed Jian. Hongsheng got orders from the chieftain of the Kisha clan to finish off Jian. Knowing the reality that he was facing, Jian then tried to escape by jumping into a ravine. Several days had passed since that incident. That day, there was a beautiful woman who tried to escape. She was a skilled thief who was always on the run, and her name was Zhu Yi. When she was hiding, she accidentally saw a person stranded on the river banks. Seeing that something was wrong, Yi immediately tried to help him. She brought the man, and it turned out that he was Jian. Yi took him home to give him some help. Yi's family then tried to help Jian, but her father was really shocked because he found out that Jian's arm had been cut. Yi's father immediately gave him medicine to stop the bleeding. Yi's family was a simple family. They lived in a very simple house, but they all still felt very happy. That night, suddenly they heard the sound of something falling outside the house. Yi immediately went straight to the sound, and it turned out that Jian was trying to escape from there. Fortunately, Yi's pet, Fei, managed to catch Jian. Seeing this, Yi immediately told Fei to let go of Jian. Yi then tried to explain to Jian that she was not a bad person. She emphasized that she won't hurt Jian. After that, Yi asked Jian to come into her house again, so that Jian could go back to rest. That's when Yi wanted to know Jian's identity, but Jian didn't want to tell her his name. He even said that he really hated his own name. This made Yi annoyed because Jian was acting disrespectful to the person who had helped him. On the other hand, the chieftain of the Kisha clan started to get angry because his men were unable to finish off Jian. Because of that, he again ordered his men to hunt down and finish off Jian at any cost. The next morning, Yi and her father invited Jian to go to the town. And at that time, Yi started using Jian to help her earn money, asking Jian to beg people. Meanwhile, Yi also started carrying out her actions of pickpocketing the people's wallets. Not long after, suddenly, there was a group of thugs who were carrying a sword case belonging to Jian. Everyone who saw the thugs started to get scared, and suddenly, the sword case they were carrying got closer to its original owner. Because of this, one of the thugs started to get annoyed. That's when they started to harass and intimidate Jian. Even though Jian was very angry, he chose to remain silent because he didn't dare to show his power in public. Seeing this, Yi immediately helped Jian, but the thugs really annoyed her. So Yi was forced to teach them a lesson. After that, Yi took their money, and she immediately ran away with Jian because another group started chasing her. Finally, the two of them managed to escape into the forest. At that time, it started to rain, so they took shelter in a hut. Jian felt annoyed by Yi's kindness. Even though Yi was trying sincerely to be kind, Jian actually felt that her kindness was just a trick. Jian thought that there is no good in this world. Hearing Jian's words, Yi explained that she was very sincere in helping him. That evening, Yi was really upset because Jian didn't believe her words. But that's when Jian suddenly started to approach her and thanked her. Yi then confided in Jian that her younger siblings really wanted to become warriors. But actually, she didn't want his younger siblings to become warriors because they would often face danger. Yi then asked about Jian's true origins. But again, Jian didn't want to tell her, but he promised he would tell her everything about himself if he was ready. The next day, there was shocking news. Yi's younger brother was caught by the thugs. Hearing this news, Yi immediately went to save his younger brother. but at that time, she was also caught. Unexpectedly, Jian came to save Yi Yi and her brother. Jian immediately took out his flying sword style to scare the thugs. Suddenly, they all became very scared, but before he left, he even gave the thug his sword case. Jian gave it because he planned that he wasn't going to use it anymore. But unexpectedly, Yi Yi's father and mother heard news about Jian, who could use a sword. Because of that, they all knew that Jian was a swordsman from Kisha Villa. Yi Yi's mother, who started to know Jian's identity, immediately asked him to leave her house because she didn't want her family to get involved in Jian's problems with the Kisha Villa. Knowing that her mother kicked Jian out, Yi Yi didn't agree with this. She asked Jian to stay at their house because it turned out that Yi Yi started to fall in love with Jian. She wasn't even willing if Jian left her. After that, Yi Yi asked Jian to go somewhere so they could talk. Yi Yi, whose name means 11, gave Jian a new name, and it was Shire, which means 12. On the other hand, the group of thugs intended to leave the island, but unexpectedly, they had uninvited guests. They were Hongshang and her friends, and they came because they tracked down Jian's sword. The thugs then were attacked by the members of the Kisha Villa clan. Their aim in coming was to find Jian's whereabouts, and because they had no other choice, the thugs then told Jian's whereabouts. The next day, Jian was going to leave Yi Yi's house. But before leaving, he wore the white clothes that belonged to Yi Yi's father, which was given to him. Seeing Jian wearing these clothes, Yi Yi's mother then remembered her young husband. Because of that, Yi Yi's mother gave up her intention to kick Jian out of her house. In fact, she started to treat Jian like her own family. Yi Yi felt very happy with this situation. The little family, which had been living a simple life, could feel happiness again. Not long after that, Yi Yi was kidnapped by the Kisha Villa clan, and Jian immediately chased them. Jian fought against them, even though at that time, it was Hongshang who was in front of him. One of the clan members who had died suddenly turned into a giant snake, but luckily, Fei came to help them. With help from Fei, Jian was able to quickly return home because he already had a bad feeling. Sure enough, his adoptive father, or the chieftain of the Kisha Villa, had been waiting for him. Without talking much, Jian immediately attacked his father, but his attack was easily repelled. Jian almost died, however, Yi Yi's father managed to save him. Yi Yi's father, who was in the middle of the fight, suddenly got help from Yi Yi's mother. Unexpectedly, Yi Yi's parents had a great skill in fighting. They both were the outcast warriors. Yi Yi's father's real name was Bai Yunfei, a swordsman from Mount Zhu, while Yi Yi's mother was named Run Oingchen, a very legendary warrior at the time. In that battle, they both began to show their true abilities, so they managed to defeat the Kisha Villa chieftain. Because he was getting weaker, the Kisha Villa chieftain immediately left. After that, Yi Yi's parents immediately helped Jian, who was injured. Yi Yi had just found out that her father and mother were top warriors, so she immediately asked where the two of them came from. Yi Yi's mother then was forced to tell the truth. Yi Yi's mother and her husband were warriors who ran away from their clan, just like Jian. The next day, Yi Yi's father asked them all to leave their house, because he knew that the gods would definitely look for him and his wife after they revealed their true identities. At that time, they all intended to leave the island where they live, but unexpectedly, when they were on the beach, suddenly the gods from Yi Yi's parents' clan came down from the sky to catch them. Yi Yi's father immediately used a forbidden move to ward off the gods. Even though this move actually required a lot of energy and can have fatal consequences if used. But luckily, in the end, they all managed to escape, but the soldiers from Yi Yi's parents' clan were still chasing them. That's when Yi Yi immediately told her mother to continue the journey, while she would fight all the soldiers. After Yi Yi succeeded in defeating them, she immediately caught up with her family. But at that time, Yi Yi actually intended to kill her own mother. She felt that all this time, her mother had lied to her. So in fact, Jian's adoptive father appeared again in front of Yi Yi after she succeeded in defeating the soldiers who followed her family. Jian's father then told a story about Yi Yi's parents. According to Jian's father's story, Yi Yi was not their biological daughter. She was just an adopted child after they killed Yi Yi's biological parents. Yi Yi's mother confirmed the story, but she also regretted all her actions in the past. Because of that, the mother was willing if Yi Yi would finish her right then and there. But suddenly, the chieftain of the Kishavilla clan appeared and attacked them again. Without thinking twice, Yi-Yi's mother tried to hold off the attack from John's adoptive father. Unfortunately, the knife that Yi was carrying stuck straight into the mother's chest. Even in such a situation, Yi-Yi's mother was still able to survive and continue to fight. However, because Yi-Yi's mother was too weak, Jan's father was able to defeat her easily. Yi, who knew her mother was lying helpless, could only cry. And that's when Jian started to regain consciousness, immediately throwing a pen towards his adoptive father's eyes. Luckily, with John's attack just now, they were able to escape. But Yi, who was still crying because of her mother's death, was left. At that time, Jian, together with Yi's father, began to carry out recovery in the highest cave on the island. Yi's father also started to put all his power into John's body. Finally, the cultivation they did made John's severed hand grow back to normal. Day after day, Yi's father taught Jian to meditate to get the skill of 10,000 flying swords, same as what Yi's father had, and after Jian was able to learn this knowledge, he began to ask Yi's father for permission to go save Yi. With his confidence, Jian immediately went to the Kishavilla headquarters. With all his courage, Jian defeated all the soldiers who were there. Finally, Jian managed to enter the throne of the clan leader. Knowing this, Jian's adoptive father was very surprised. Without words, Jian immediately attacked his father, until a big fight between them was inevitable. Jian unleashed all the moves he had, but unfortunately, those moves actually enhanced his father's power. Suddenly, Jian's father started releasing several demon monsters to attack Jian. But Jian, who had a new move, namely 10,000 swords, was able to defeat him. And finally, Jian managed to knock out his father and destroy his palace. After the fight, Jian immediately helped Yi and took her away, but it turned out that Jian's father was still alive and attacked Jian again with his secret move. Knowing this, Jian also immediately released his forbidden move. Namely the god's sword falling from the sky. This move is forbidden to use because it can make mountains and seas split apart. Finally, Jian's father was defeated. After everything, Jian and Yi planned to live a simple life together. Jian also promised that he would not be a swordsman again.